All right, so today we're here to talk about climate, and don't really mean that in terms of political climate per se. So instead, we're sitting down with three brilliant minds in social justice, voting advocacy, climate justice advocacy, and music. So my name is Sierra Marty, and I'm a student at the University of Utah and an ambassador for the Andrew Goodman Foundation. And with us, we have founder of the Hip Hop Caucus, Reverend Yearwood, Grammy nominated singer and actress Antonique Smith, and musician and band leader of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, John Batiste. So, welcome. We're going to jump right in with some questions. So, the first question I have for you guys is I know that each of you can relate to the idea of using your platform to tackle issues like climate change and voter advocacy. Antonique and John, you were both Grammy nominated musicians with huge careers. Why was it so important to you to use your platform to be a leader in your community and not just as an entertainer?
Well, um, we, I say we as a whole, as the industry, we move the culture, we change the culture, we sometimes create the culture, and so it's up to us. We have a platform, and we also have a responsibility, whether we like it or not, to use our platform to further things in a good way. A lot of times, we hear content out there that may not be the most positive messages, and whether it's music, whether it's television, movies, we've seen over the decades how certain content can be very destructive for the culture. And when you think of movies like the original Birth of a Nation, or certain songs that have kind of crazy messages, and so because we are so influential as an industry, as an entire industry, we're so influential. It's so important that we take the time to use the platform that we have and the influence that we have over minds who really do look up to us in a way, to tell them the right things, to tell them, the important things, to tell them the things that sometimes the media is ignoring or is not talking about. Like today, we're talking about climate change, and for the longest, all I ever heard about climate change was polar bears and ice glaciers. And it wasn't until I met Rev Yearwood of the Hip Hop Caucus, and we were working on an album called Home, Heal Our Mother Earth, the first album about climate change. It wasn't until then that I really knew what was actually happening with climate change, and the fact that it was Black people, my people of color, and poor people who were suffering the most from the pollution that's actually causing climate change. So it was like, oh wait, so this isn't just this future problem that that feels far away and irrelevant. It's something that's like killing my people right now. Like, oh, okay. And so that's when I joined the movement, and I have not looked back. And so it's important for us to tell people, because people, just like I didn't know, so many people still don't know really the truth and the facts of what is happening to us. Literally, it's happening to us right now. So that's why I feel like, oh my God, there's no way I couldn't use my platform. Sorry, John, I talked so long.
No, no, you preaching. I love it. I love it. Speak the truth. And that's really what I feel as well. There's power with the platform, there's power with the vibrations that we wield.
Yes.
This is spiritual. This is beyond us. We're talking about speaking across time. The beautiful thing about art is that you're talking to the past, you're talking to the ancestors, you're speaking to the present moment, and you're projecting the future. And there's a power in that when you understand your role in time. Where am I in time? What is my experience really about, and what does it connect to? What's my purpose? All these are questions that the artist is constantly grappling with. You're constantly trying to figure out what is the meaning behind everything that we're doing. So I find it really impossible to be a genuine artist that's in it for the actual beauty and truth that is in art, and to not address everything that's going on around you within the context of time.
That was so poetic and beautifully said.
So we say the same thing, sis. I'm with it.
You said it real nice though.
I'm with it, totally. You saying it. It's the truth. The platform is, people see us and they look up to us and they want to be healed in a lot of ways by what we deliver with our hands, with our hearts, all of the things that we're channeling. You know, it's for real.
I agree.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we don't want to forget Reverend Yearwood. So you're legendary in using social activism as a space too. So in fact, you've helped architect P. Diddy's Vote or Die campaign in the early 2000s. Can you talk about why you felt it was critical to bring together something like hip hop and social justice to create a mega movement like that? And how do you carry that same energy with you today?
Well, first, let me just thank you, young sister, for doing what you're doing from Utah and being here with us. I think that's amazing. One, we need to have young activists. We need to have women leading and guiding this movement. So thank you for where you are and being concerned about this process. And for me, it's always an honor to be sitting with these phenomenally talented artists, John and Antonique. They bless my heart so much. As you know, I believe that the role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible.
Hey.
So they are doing that, but they're doing that with the understanding of what our people need at this time. I think, as John said so quite well, is that we're at a critical moment in time in history. You know, I actually want to take a second to go back in time. I think it's important to actually lift up, because I know that the Andrew Goodman Foundation and others are a part of this process, and I want to lift up Michael Schwerner and James Chaney, 3 young men who were killed by the Ku Klux Klan back in 1964 for just trying to get the vote out. And they gave their lives so that we could vote and we could be a part of this movement. And it's so proud for us today to see the Mississippi state flag come down recently because of the Confederate flag. So we are not living in what people died for. And so I just want to make sure to lift them up. And then I'm obviously from Louisiana. So this year is the 15th year of Hurricane Katrina. And so for me, seeing my people literally 15 years ago drowned and left behind in the richest country in the world was troubling. And that's one of the reasons why I think that we use our voice to make these things happen, because for artists in particular, and for activists like me, you can take away the images which you see. There's something about an artist's mind and brain that they now have to just transform that image into life, into vision, into hope. And sometimes they got to do it in a way through the music, through the song, through the dance, and through however we can to almost sound the trumpet to let people know that something is either wrong or something is actually right. We're going in the right direction. Right. And so I think that what you're saying, what I was able to do with Diddy, with Vote or Die campaign, with many other artists throughout, from T.I. and Tip and Antonique, as she mentioned, right here with me. I think that all we're trying to do is make sure that we're creating freedom songs in the 21st century. We know that our parents fought for equality in the 20th century, and we're still fighting for equality, but we're also fighting for existence in the 21st century. So the issue of climate change and the issue of the environment is one in which, that it's not just about, as Antonique said, the polar bears, and I like polar bears, but the reality is that people who are Black and Indigenous, people of color, are the ones who are first and worst hit by hurricanes, hit by droughts, hit by wildfires, they're hit by pollution. They're hit by the incinerators that are in their communities. They're hit by, the coal-fired power plants. 68% of Black people live 30 miles to coal-fired power plants. So they're the ones here that are having asthma and cancer and emphysema. So for us, it's just simply that, listen, we are fighting for humanity, not Republican, not Democrat, humans. This is what this is all about. Black, white, brown, male, female, straight, gay, humans. So we can do that and do it in love, then our planet can be a much better place.
Preach, Rev.
Yes, amen.
So I think adding on to everything that you just said, and like with the space and in time like that we're living in this year, like with the pandemic and Black Lives Matter movement, and with it also being an election year, like how do you think climate justice fits into all of that? Or how do you think it could fit into all of that?
I guess I go in reverse order. We'll go back, me and John and Antonique. So let me just say clearly that climate justice is racial justice, and racial justice is climate justice. They're all intertwined. We don't live single issue lives. We don't live lives for only housing or only education or only climate. Our lives are intertwined. And so I think the issue right now, what we're seeing, particularly regarding the movement for Black lives, and issue of the climate and COVID, is that we're seeing that those who are most vulnerable, particularly Black and Indigenous people of color, are the ones who are dying first. We're seeing with COVID-19. First, our prayers go out to everybody who is suffering. Most artists, our prayers go for artists whose whole lives have been transitioned, and they're still using their platform. Even their lives, they're the ones who actually lose the most money. People don't understand who are watching this. Artists, they depend on gigs and opportunities, and their lives are uprooted because of this, but they're still, because they're artists, still using it. So I just want to make sure that people understand that COVID-19 has a huge impact on their lives, but on all of us. And so Black people, brown people, they're the ones who are dying, again, because of systemic racism, because of white supremacy that has been continuing on, that we have to deal with. Those are real conversations. But the issue of climate and racial justice, I'll just say that, Eric Garner is somebody I looked at a lot. Eric Garner was somebody who 6 years ago said, I can't breathe because of an illegal chokehold. And then we saw it again with George Floyd. Let me look up George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all those who died this year. But George Floyd said, again, I can't breathe. But the reality, though, is that even though he was died because of the police brutality, his daughter, Erica Garner, who would be fighting for him, she would die because of the pollution in her borough in New York, which received the F for air quality. And so literally, and everybody in his family had asthma. So even though he died because of the police brutality, Black people and poor people are dying because of the pollution. And so those two things connect. And so we have to, again, connect those dots so that people aren't dying, and more importantly, that we can lift them up so they can live. And so that's just my standpoint, that there's no separation between climate change and racial justice. As a matter of fact, climate change is a civil rights issue. We have a right to clean air. We have a right to clean water. And I think that we must stand on that principle forever.
You said it, Rev. There is no coincidence that Black people and poor people are most affected by COVID and most affected by climate change and the problems in the environmental justice, the pollution. Flint still doesn't have clean water. You still have, kids in Los Angeles growing up next to oil drilling sites with people with hazmat suits on outside the window, and they don't have a hazmat suit on. It's like something don't seem right about that. In fact, Nayeli, the beautiful young lady that I met, she had to be 14, 15 when we met, and I actually saw where she was able to look out the window at the hazmat suits 200 feet away from her bedroom. She has cancer now. She's 18. And so, there's no coincidence. There's just no coincidence there. It is, environmental justice is a civil justice, racial justice issue. I completely agree.
Wow. Yeah, that's a stirring account. The thing that I think about often is how much apathy we're dealing with. and how much the negativity from all sides that is trying to pummel us and take away our life force, take away our concern for our neighbor, for our neighborhood, for our cities, for our country, for our world. It's very insidious. Apathy has a way. 100 million people who were eligible to vote in the last presidential election didn't vote. Think about that. Even with all of the gerrymandering and voter suppression, 100 million people.
That's crazy.
Over 40% of eligible people did not use their voice, did not feel that their voice was of concern. That, to me, is the greatest battle that we're facing, and climate change is the chief opponent. We're seeing all of the residual impact of our apathy based upon the way that this evil force is coming at us from all sides. So we absolutely have to sound the trumpet, as Rev was saying. If we don't, we can't stop sounding the trumpet. I'll put it like that.
Yeah, right.
Stop sounding the trumpet. It's got to keep going.
Right.
Yep. So true.
Absolutely. Well, the next question I have for you guys is, when we think about climate, a lot comes up, but at the same time, we never really actually think about all of the challenges beneath the surface related to climate change or environmental justice, etc. Reverend Yearwood, when you founded the Hip Hop Caucus, one of the biggest things your nonprofit set out to tackle is climate justice. Can you tell us the real about why climate justice is something every student voter in America should be thinking about?
Well, we first started out, we actually were doing the voting process, which we still do respect my vote. And hopefully I get Antonique and John to be part of that with me this year. We get out there, get the vote out, you know what I mean? We're gonna do it. And so that's important off the bat. We've done that, we still do that. And it was actually, for me, I was very fortunate when I was, when they consolidated Hip Hop Caucus, it was an organization, Hip Hop Summit Action Network. It was Citizen Change. It was led by Diddy, and it was Voice Your Choice, led by Jay-Z. And at the end of 2004, they came and then they were like, "Listen, Red, we really, an artist. We want to be artists. To be honest, we don't really want to. We really don't want to keep doing this as much. We want to be doing this. We want to do our artist work and let you do it." Now, since then, we have now created, as Antonique wrote in an article you can check out, is an archivist, which is the combination of artists and activists, which is beautiful, which I think we need to have to move forward. But it was really Hurricane Katrina, just to be clear. It was that when the caucus was created 16 years ago now, almost, in 2004, Katrina hit on August 29th, 2005, and me being a homeboy from Louisiana, I couldn't just see what that was. And so then I began, that was the issue. Now we had already been dealing with environmental justice. I think Anthony made a great point. We have been dealing with it. I mean, Louisiana was called Cancer Alley, but we always wasn't seen as connected. And this is something that, as a movement, we got to have some real talk about a movement that has been predominantly white, or I could say Birkenstock, to be nice. But it's been a movement that really hasn't connected the dots. I think you're doing much better now, so I'm happy for that. But at that point in time, we just thought about pollution. And I know Antonique's from Jersey, she went through Superstorm Sandy. But just that smell, people tell you, that's the smell of money. You think that smells terrible, but that's the smell of money. And it'd be like, that'd be what it is. Smell of money. Pollution. It was pollution. You up there choking for real. And that would be what it is. But it was Hurricane Katrina, and it was that. And it was truly in that moment when we at Hip Hop Caucus began to move forward. What's important, though, is that we then, because we were artists and activists and predominantly people of color, they wanted us to then be in a box. Well, since you want to be involved with climate change, you can be in the environmental justice box. That's where the black folks play. We're like, no, this is the 21st century. No, we everybody, because hip hop is black, it's white, it's brown, it's queer, It's straight. It's everybody's human. So hip hop and the music and the culture is not in a box. We're not gonna be put in a box. And so we was like, nah, we gonna be in the box to fight climate change. Y'all can have. We're gonna fight environmental justice, but we're gonna fight everything to make sure our planet is safe. And so since then, we've been fighting. What we do, we fight. that's part of our spirit. We fight. So we fight everything from the pipelines. We fight everything because Louisiana has the coast is receding, the Gulf Coast is messing up, and the marshlands is messed up. We take on that. So we've been fighting literally in every aspect. And so I think now it's a key issue. But also want to make sure we haven't just done it with facts. Clearly science and facts is important. We understand what it means to have the science lead us and guide us. But the one thing we also realize too is that the heart is as important as the brain. Mm-hmm. And if you don't touch people's hearts to literally make sure they feel something, they feel it. Like, man, sometimes it's through an instrument, it's through a dance, it's through poetry, it's through it's through a play, but they feel it. Yep. And they leave there ready to take on the world. That's what we do best. We use our cultural expression to shape our political experience to change the world.
So good, so true.
This next question is for Antonique. So you've also been so vocal about climate change. Why is this an issue that you have chosen in your life to be vocal about?
I kind of spoke about it a little bit, but it was the realization that it wasn't just the future problem that we are. I mean, it's future, but it's soon. They're saying we got 10 years left before we have the time that we have to make some super changes, which clearly this administration that we have right now has done everything opposite. Yeah, they're going he wants to restart pipelines. He likes, coal. He, all of that stuff. He's with it. He's about that pollution life. And so, everything that we need to do to fix it, it's still a future problem. Right now, though, and what's been happening over the years since I found out, I think it was 2014, my people are already dying. So I'm feeling hopeful with the movement for Black Lives right now. I got so many goosebumps. Cried so many tears too, but it was man, people are finally waking up. And I think it kind of took COVID and everybody sitting down and being, being forced to see what was happening to us all these years is really why the movement was able to take off at this point the way it did. But Black Lives Matter and environmental justice is literally the same thing. In fact, when we were on tour, me and Rev and, with Hip Hop Caucus, the Act on Climate tour, I was saying Black Lives Matter. It hadn't really popped off like it has now, but it's the same thing. Our people are dying from pollution. Like Rev said, Eric Garner had asthma. He was already dying before they really, really took him out. And so that is the issue. And they want to make it, make us think that it's a hereditary thing, the cancer's hereditary and asthma's hereditary. But it's when a whole group of people, a whole neighborhood who isn't related all has cancer, or a whole area who isn't related all has asthma. That's not hereditary. That is definitely pollution. And it's pollution that some companies, some billion-dollar companies, are making a lot of money to be able to put that pollution where it is. And it just so happens, I don't think coincidentally at all, to be in our neighborhoods. And so when I found that out in 2014, I literally could not talk about it. I could not use my platform. I could not use my time I could not use my time to tell people what was happening. We would be in different cities, and people literally did not know. They just didn't know that incinerator up the street from the school, like within 2 miles of a school, is why all those children have asthma. We would ask a group of young kids who has asthma, and half the students would raise their hands. Black kids. And so, yeah, there's just no way. There's no way that I couldn't talk about this. There's no way that I couldn't spread the word. There's no way that I couldn't use my art. Like Rev said, I'm an artivist. And so, you know, for the movement, what I sing a lot is Mercy, Mercy Me, because people don't realize Marvin Gaye was talking about this stuff 40 years ago. It's crazy, the words to Mercy, Mercy Me. And then I also sing Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles, which is kind of like the hopeful ode to solar power and the you know, the things that we need to go towards clean energy. And I don't think the Beatles was trying to write a climate change song, but we took it and that's what it is. That's what it is now. So, you know, I think it's important. And because music touches people in such a way, and even visual content, you know, I'm an actor too. All of that really shapes minds and it moves people. Like Rev said, I've always felt like my whole purpose is to make people feel. And, you know, sometimes we need to feel, sometimes we need to cry. So whatever that feeling is that people need to feel, I'm all about that. And so using my ability to make people feel and my desire to make people feel to help them understand and inspire them about what's happening and inspire them to help change what's happening, man, that's I believe it's my purpose.
I love it. Awesome. Well, this question's for you, John. So you've been really going so hard for your community and young people with your new song, We Are, and with your work to get out the vote. Can you talk about what sparked that song and what work you've been doing to organize in your community? Young organizers would love to hear your advice.
I take my cues from the giants who stood before I was even born, and those are the ones who I really try to model any of the work that I do off of. My grandfather was the president of both the Louisiana Postal Workers Union, and he marched and organized for the rights of the postal workers and the hotels union. He was in the military. He was my first mentor in terms of being an activist for the community and just showing me how it's done. And boy, was he clean. They would just be it'd be amazing. He was with King. I mean, the range of things that he was able to, back home, just the range of things he was able to convey to me vicariously. Just from watching him, I learned so much. Even before I knew I was picking it up. And then after a while, I had the good fortune of knowing Congressman John Lewis, getting to sit down with him many times. And the last time I got to see him and really talk about activism is actually online. I interviewed him for The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and we sat and talked for about 30 minutes. Wow. And he just, I would advise anyone to listen to what he says in that. He just breaks down their whole psychology and the ethos of what was behind the marches and how he was able to withstand so much force, so much negativity, and maintain his inner strength and his grace. To have that kind of attack on your humanity and to be so human. One of the things about what I love to do, as we all have expressed here, is our humanity is an important part of this work. The heart.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking about when we performed, this was maybe 4 years ago at this point, the March for Science. I led a March for Science on the National Mall. It was 30,000 people, all screaming for facts to be considered.
Right.
But the music element added to that march ignited something that was bigger than all of us.
Wow.
And we've been doing that. We Are is just a vehicle. The song is just a vehicle to ignite the hearts of men and women and everyone in this country to really experience something that's bigger than us, to know that this is bigger than the time we're living in right now. This is bigger than, I don't know how else to say it this is bigger than the moment.
Right.
If we don't see it in that way, we're not seeing the gravity of the situation. And that's the reason why I make that's the reason why I make the song, and that's the only reason really why I feel like in this moment there needs to be music, there needs to be dancing, poetry. You know, we had dancers on the march. People seeing that expression of motion.
Right.
You know, I would advise everyone who's organizing, use all of the forces that you have, all of the powers that have been given to us. Marshal all of that, galvanize all of that, put it in there like a gumbo. I'm from Louisiana too. We make gumbo. You put it in the pot, it's all good. You get it together. So, you know, I advise all the young people, just anybody who has the heart to want to see change and understand the gravity of this moment and really wants to put that message out there, marshal them, put them, get together, build your tribe. Let's go. Now's the time.
It's good.
That's good advice. Awesome. So I guess just kind of the last question is, so I'd love for each of you to share with the students that will be watching what it is that you believe they should be thinking about, researching, and paying attention to before they head to the polls and vote later this year. Loaded question, I guess.
Yeah. This election is life or death. I think this is probably the most important election of all of our lifetimes. We are barely making out of this last 4 years alive, barely. And I don't think we can survive another 4 years of what we've been experiencing. I really don't think we make it through. And so young people, you know, I've been looking at the polls, and although Biden is leading Trump in general, there's still groups of people like Black people and young people who are kind of looking at him like, I don't know about Biden. We don't have time for that, guys. We don't have time for that. I don't know about Biden. We need to come together and vote. We have to get this current administration out, because this current administration is not only, I mean, we're seeing how they're handling COVID, and people, we are all losing people. I already lost 2 friends, and I know a bunch of people who've lost people. And people, like, this is actual human lives. People are dying, folks. And so, you know, he's still calling it a hoax and barely wearing a mask. And so just that alone is enough reason to get them out. But if you think about the longer term climate change element of it, they also believe climate change is a hoax. So, I mean, everything is just a hoax. Everything that's actually real and true is a hoax to them. And so we don't have time for that. We don't have not another second. We don't have another second of time for that. Too many people are dying. When Rev says it's not a game, it's not a game. It is not a game. So y'all, young people, please, I implore you, we have to vote for love, and we have to vote for our future, you guys. Please. That's all I'm gonna say. Y'all go on ahead. Yeah, I'm stressed out. I just stressed myself out because we really don't have time. We don't, like, this is life or death.
Well, let me just say, one, thank you for having us.
Yes.
Here, I appreciate this conversation, and it was a blessing for me to be here with Antonique and John, and definitely I look forward to working with y'all.
Yes.
To get the vote out. We're gonna do what we can do to ensure that democracy goes forward. I'm actually hopeful. I think that I agree with everything Antonique said. Clearly, I know that either you shape policy or policy shapes you. And for too long, we've had some very negative policy and this negative energy. And I think that's actually, because those two things go together. You actually, if you're doing, it's like if you're doing good things, but acting in a bad manner. It's like if you go to a restaurant and they had good food, but they have terrible service, it doesn't matter. You're not going to want to go there anymore. So even if this administration or whoever was doing good things, but they're putting out energy that's causing us to be divided. For us to look at our color of our skin, or our if we're immigrants, or our gender or our beliefs. If that's being put, that's going to be divided, then no country divided can't stand. So I just want to say that for the young people, I kind of start off this conversation talking about Schwerner and Cheney and Goodman, the three young activists who gave their lives fighting for us to vote. And so there are those who literally gave their lives for us to be able to vote. And I know sometimes that gets kind of put in a context, well, that was back then. But there are those who are still doing it. This election right now, there will be mothers and grandmothers and grandfathers and uncles and aunts who will put a mask on in the midst of a pandemic to try to go out there and vote. Yeah. And they will literally put their lives on the line. They will literally say it is so important for my vote to matter. I'm 80, I'm 90, I'm 70, but I got to vote. And we got to make sure that if there are folks who are literally still putting their lives on the line, and we got to do the same as likewise. For those who are younger, those of us who are in our 30s, in our 40s, in our 20s, we got to meet that energy and be like, we ain't gonna let you stand there alone. As a matter of fact, we're gonna be there with you to ensure that our democracy, and I'm not talking about Republican or Democrat, our democracy is on the line right now. Like we're literally having conversations about, are we living in a fascist state? I mean, we're literally at that kind of, we're having those conversations. So let me just say this to the young people. I mean, just conclude with this, that's saying that, there's a time when right now seems critical, and it is. But know that you're also living not only for the present, but for the future. I'm so grateful for those like Thurgood Marshall and Harriet Tubman. I'm so grateful for those like Ella Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer. I'm so grateful for people like John Lewis. May God rest his soul in power. For those who literally gave their lives for us. And it's because of them, if nothing else, that we got to do the simplest thing of making sure we are active in the process of democracy, not only from the top, but down to the dog catcher to the bottom. But we got to make sure that their lives were not in vain. And I'm telling you, we can do it. And if we do that, then this country can not only be a beacon for everyone here in this country, but for the world. We can use our gift, our talent, and our resources to make this planet safer and a better place. But it means that all of us got to be involved. And I pray for that. And I know young people, you are the future. Because Dr. Kidman may have died on the balcony, but the dream didn't die on the balcony. And this generation of those of you who were born in this century are about to change the world. So make it happen. Can't stop, won't stop, as we say in hip hop.
That's good.
Woo, my goodness. Yeah, that felt good to hear. I'm very appreciative to be here with you, Rev and Antonique. I'm thankful for your questions, wonderful, just wonderful fellowship. And we're coming together to do something that is great. And I guess my only advice for going into this election is, let's be great. Let's take the call that has been put in front of us by all of the great ancestors that have said, look, we're just like you, and look what we did. This is not entertainment. This is real life. Y'all are the ones right now, in this moment. This is real life. So let's go, let's be great. Let's just actually exist in the calling of who we are and be great. I'm with you, and I love you.